Being human, do you ever wonder what makes us who we are? Our habits, preferences, or where we came from? We are expressing ourselves in thousands of ways every day through our choices. Let's have a conversation with people who are having interesting lives. My name is Alun Walker. I'm a doctor of chiropractic and a human being. So, I'm Alun Walker. I am a chiropractor. I've been working as a chiropractor in Daventry for the last 2 years. And I've decided to start doing some podcasts because I think they'd be quite interesting because I know quite a lot of interesting people. And one of those people that I'd like to introduce you to is a lady called Maina Lecomber. And Marina is a singer. She's a songwriter, producer, performer, a singing teacher, and a world traveller. So I'd like to introduce you to Marina right now. Very pleased to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
So Marina, the reason why I thought about having you on is because you've had a very interesting and colourful life. You're obviously a Ukrainian citizen, but you weren't born in the Ukraine. So I was sort of, looking back at your past and doing a little bit of work behind the scenes, it's quite interesting for me to find out where you were from and where your family have come from, and your sort of journey through your early part of your life and how you've got to where you are today, and to talk a little bit about music, to talk a little bit about the problems that we're having at the moment with Ukraine and with Russia, and some colourful details in between. So I hope you're happy to do something like that.
Yes, sounds like a good plan.
Brilliant. So you are born, not originally from Ukraine.
Right. So it is kind of hard to explain where you're born if the country where you're born at doesn't exist anymore. It reminds me of that movie with Tom Hanks when he took his flight and it was a connection in between. And during the connection, there was something happening in his country and it stopped existing actually. And then he couldn't get anywhere because he couldn't get a visa because his passport not valid. So do you remember that terminal?
Yeah, terminal, that's right.
Yes.
Airport, yeah.
So I believe that a lot of past Soviet Union citizens and probably for a few more generations to come going to be in this sort of limbo zone.
Hopefully not.
Well, hopefully they will get over it faster and smoother. But in general, I was born in the big country that we used to call Soviet Union, and it was a big country that was having so many other little republics inside. And my father used to be a military man, and that's why at the moment when I was about to get born, we was in Russia, in Siberia. It's very close to polar situation, and basically snow, half year night, half year a day. And the first memories actually ever, it's the much higher than human.
6 foot of snow.
Yes, so you can wake up and some lovely people, God bless their hearts, already dig the tunnel, vertical tunnels, not the tunnel, like the channels, yes, that would be a better way to describe it, to the shop, to the work, to the kindergarten, to the closest school, the only one in little town, and that was it basically. So you ending up going in through snow labyrinths sometimes. We moved from there when I was around 4-ish, 5-ish.
What's your earliest memory of being there?
Well, snow and night. So I was born to the night. Born to the night. That sounds romantic, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's a bit suggestive. Anyway, I was born to the night. And I remember that my mom was telling me, or the second half of a year, there was actually a day, but that was a night.
Yeah.
It's just very...
So you're talking about 6 months of darkness?
Yes, and 6 months of light. So it is the moment when the mom struggling to explain little child that it is time to sleep because it's night, while outside is obviously a day.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
And then you left there at what age?
4 or 5, and went to Ukraine. It was still Soviet Union. So the Soviet Union army, they had movement free, that was moving a lot. My dad, there was few options and he decided to go to Ukraine because he ethnically Ukrainian. This is the misconception that lots of people in England has, because they say if you're born somewhere, then you're that. which is obviously I'm Ukrainian, but I was born in Russia. But I am not Russian. So my ethnicity is Ukrainian. I was born in Russia, and my citizenship is Ukrainian. So it's three different things that often, because of the historical and cultural and lawful basis in UK, people usually take as the same for granted. No, it's not. And all post-Soviet Union countries, they're actually having this little messed up, and it's sometimes hard to explain.
Yeah, I understand the language is different as well.
Yes, obviously the languages are different, yeah.
I mean, how different? I understand that Ukrainian, the Polish will understand you and the Ukrainians will understand the Polish, but that it isn't necessarily the case that the Russians will understand Ukrainian or Polish.
Yes, that's correct. So Ukrainian language carrier, the people of Ukraine, let's call it like this, they can understand easy Russian, Ukrainian. They can have very good idea what Polish people talking to them about, and there are a few more Slavic related languages around as well, which is Russian slightly different. Still, Turk's language group has a big impact historically on Slavic languages, Ukrainian and Russian as well. There's lots of words there in this, but still, the more times passing, the more these two nations moving apart, no pun intended in these dark times, but I mean culturally and language-wise as well. So Ukrainian language, modern Ukrainian language, keep on evolving, and obviously because of the culture of the whole world moving faster, and Ukraine is more integrated into Western world and culture now than ever.
More like
they have
European.
they have more language incomes as well, so there's lots of words that are coming from English as well.
I've noticed there's a lot of people from Europe that are living in Ukraine as well. It isn't just a one-way thing. It's a mixture of like a cosmopolitan type of area as well.
Yes, we're moving there. We're getting there slowly.
And of course, the food is. Would you say the food is? Would you say it's Soviet Union type? The cabbage rolls, which obviously you get in Poland, and would you say it's a similar type thing with foods?
Yes, I would say it is a similar type. You know, when you talk about any culture or food or even, let's face it, languages, the similarities and differences, they dictated not by regulations of the law effective from 2005 or something. It actually goes down to going down to geographical position, what vegetables and what resources are available, and cultural side of it, how they're prepared and how people prefer to consume them or preserve them. It's also about, imagine the old times when probably our continents had slightly different shapes, and then there was lots of tribes moving
across the land masses at the time.
Yes. So when someone says, I am Russian, or I am Ukrainian, or I am, British, or it's very interesting how deep you like to dig and how much new, unexpected things you're ready to know about yourself and your ancestry, because the world is fluid, everything is moving. But obviously there are some definitions that, that geographically, Turks was moving, there's some Genghis Khan people was going through, passing by a few times, probably had some successful marriages, fruitful ones,
For sure.
I'm pretty sure, yes. Brown-eyed people, like moi as well.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, so Vikings, they used to go together with the Cossacks, with the Ukrainian part of that history as well. So it's all intertwined. So when you think about Ukraine and Ukrainian food and culture, you're probably thinking about Ukraine that was declared and had a constitution. I'm trying to be very clever now. At 1993, just give me a second. 91. Okay, this is embarrassing.
So
24th of August, 1991. So
Yeah.
the golden 90s, I'm making lots of jokes about. So it was the time when Soviet Union finally dissolved, or was kind of nearly there. But the mainly Ukraine declared its independency and started working on a currency and constitution of its own, finally, after many years of struggling
Yeah.
and getting there. So yeah, you're talking about this Ukraine, but it's so much more than that.
It's a long-term historical situation.
Like
in that
any
area of
country in
world.
the world, actually. Yes.
Well, of course. I mean, it's like, people talk about being British, and then these days we're very lucky to have genetic tests, and then we're finding out that some people have got African blood, some people have got German blood, some people have Indian blood. It's surprising that they're not what we think as being a pure British. That it's a big mixing pot, this country, and of course it's going to be. Every continent of the world is going to have these mixes. And as long as we can travel across water, we're going to be mixing with other people. So, of course, there's going to be a difference in genetics. So the reason why I've asked you some of these questions is because I've been very aware of having conversations with people where they just think, oh, yeah, Ukrainians, they're all basically Russians. Yeah,
but smaller.
Without the understanding of actually all of these separate countries weren't always together. This has been a fairly modern type scenario. And that they were brought together at one time, and then they've been separated off.
Right.
And obviously, I mean, for me as well, it's interesting. I did a little bit of homework, and I was always surprised to find out that, for example, that we've got 67 million people that live in the UK. There is, if you double that up, 67, about 140 million people. That's actually what there is in Russia. And yet the continent, the landmass of the UK, you can it's 6,000% bigger in Russia,
Right.
and only twice the population. And we're being bullied by the Russians. The whole world has had to change because it's decided to become aggressive, which I just thought that was very interesting. And put it in perspective about the 140, twice as many people in Russia than in the UK. To put that in perspective, there's 1.4 billion in China and 1.4 billion in India. So the populations of these countries is enormous, and it dwarfs Russia, and obviously dwarfs the UK. It's huge amounts of people, and so the power hasn't been equally moved around, has it? I don't think. I just thought it was very interesting to understand how many people are actually living in these different countries, and that the power is basically pushed by nuclear.
It depending how you defined word power. Actually, do you mean resources or money?
It's resources and
or
power.
Do you mean political impact, or you mean fanciness of the country, if that's the way to say it?
I think it comes from what I've seen so far in my life. I'm 54 this year. Send me a postcard, won't you? 54, 30th of May. Yeah,
will do.
But it comes to my mind from what I've seen about how we get pushed around as human beings, is that it comes from money first, and then money can buy power, and then comes fanciness.
Right. I have a triangle theory. Can I share it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's quite useful. So triangle comes from three main, most important resources that human can ever think of, in my not very humble opinion. So it goes like this. It's money, time, and people. So these three are very important resources. And now let's try to see them in a different perspective. It's all related to the understanding of power. Power is when you have choice, to do what you want, get the result you want, right? Whatever you want can happen, right? When you imagine powerful God, the God with the beard, whatever he wishes.
Desires, yeah.
Yes. So let's go to the smaller scale and say, you're not a god, you don't want to, Michael Jackson still to be alive and Dalai Lama would be your best friend. Let's say you want something very humble, like your business to be successful. You have a project, you have deadlines. So now we're talking about resources. And it always goes down to people, money, and time. So what do you think is most important to have? Some people prioritize money. And let's imagine a situation. People have money on the top of the triangle and they have a little bit of time, and they're struggling to find right people. All this money can be wasted and time can be wasted if there is no good people to execute it.
Okay.
Let's move. You have people, but you don't have enough time.
So moving the triangle.
Yes, still money on the
Yeah.
top. You have good people around you, but or you have time. You don't have good. What was it? Okay, I get confused. So you have good people, but you don't have time. So you sit standing there holding packs of money in your hands and very good team behind you, but you have 20 minutes. What can you do?
Yeah.
You understand. I think some people think it's time most important, right? It's not far from the truth. I actually think time is important. But if you have all time in the world, but you have no money, you have people around you, well...
It's still not going to work.
Yeah, well, because the people go second, so they're not the best people ever, right? So it's kind of doable people. And let's go to my favorite position is when you have people, then you have time, and then you have money. I'll tell you what, if you have right people, and if you have okay amount of time, this combination just of these two can create that money that you need to even start something, and then it can generate the whole system that can work. So people is the most important.
You think that's how these
yes, so I think
built up?
so. Coming back to what we started, power and how to make things happen your way actually goes down to people. So which country is most powerful? Coming back to your population question, country has more people because they can make things done.
Yeah.
And they can get resources, they can make them work, and so everything, I think, coming down to people and a little bit of time in the hands.
So the future might be in the hands of China and India in the future.
Well,
yeah. We went on a little bit of a tangent there, but I certainly enjoyed that. It was worth the conversation, certainly for people to understand a bit more about the Ukraine. So how long did you stay in the Ukraine for? What was your education, bringing it back to your life?
Bring back to my life. My education is a master's degree at pop music and singing, and a singing teacher as well. It is a thing. You can have high education on that.
Did you pay for that yourself, or?
No, I actually won a singing competition, and I get it for free. I worked to get it myself, 17 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were doing music at school?
Yes, 13 years old I started making it seriously, and since then everything changes. Yes.
And at 13 years old, a typical Ukrainian, would they be able to speak one language or two?
Obviously two. Yeah, and English at school.
Right.
What I am operating right now, the basis for it is just a normal Soviet Union school program, by the way.
Okay, so you had learned 3 languages: Ukrainian, Russian,
yes.
English.
Yes, English was from year 5.
Of course it's English, of course it is. Yeah, and then following that at 17 years old, what did you do then?
The first thing I started doing is actually getting myself a job, obviously.
Do you remember your first job?
People call first job like something horrible. My first job was actually singing, and I didn't see it any other way.
Where was that?
It was in one of the most ridiculously, idiotically expensive restaurants in Kiev, in the very heart of the city, which was actually 5 minutes walk from my uni. I always want to be so independent, and I was excited. Always.
Did you sing on your own, or did you have anyone that supported you?
Yes, there was a musician, one and then another, and they were switching. The story of me getting that job is actually funny. I was not, in Ukraine, that was a bit risky to hire me because I was not full 18 years old, but they liked me singing so much, and it was quite a weird situation to be put on. They're like, obviously we want her to sing here, and then they sold it.
Do you remember what the song was?
Oh God, that was, I guess there was a few, and one of them probably would be Whitney Houston, that all teenagers, that times, girls singing girls I was just going mad about.
What year was that?
And something like that, I guess.
At 17 years old?
No, that was 13 years old, which actually everything
okay.
started with, but it's just like, okay, so what should I do? Just sing that one, okay, that one, okay.
The standard things throughout the planet, it was very, very similar things, I think.
Yes, but like these days, sometimes in teaching kids singing, and they say, I ask like 3 years old, 4 years old, what inspires you? How did you decide to learn singing? Because it's quite a commitment, and people think singing is like very easy and fun, but there's so much work behind it. But kids who practicing, they know in it, and they still don't give up. And once in a while, I just could not help it. I asked 4 years old, like, what inspired you? Why do you want to be a singer? You work so hard. She says, I saw Frozen and I heard the song Let It Go, and I could, and this is that. It's a typical, so I don't know who wrote this song and who, made up the whole story, but definitely it inspired so many kids to turn their faces to the light, you know, so it's nice. And I believe Whitney Houston in 90s was something like this too.
To people like you of that age?
Yes, there was a light in the end of a tunnel, I would say.
And where did you live then?
Kiev region.
Whereabouts?
Kiev. Ukraine, Kiev is a capital, somewhere close, yeah.
And what sort of accommodation were you living in? Was it?
Well, I lived with my parents, and then I get into the uni as long as I get first excuse and first chance to get myself a dormitory place, which I immediately did, and get myself a job. That was 17 years old, gone. Freedom, yes, independence.
Okay.
All the women were independent. Yeah, that was very, very exciting. I was very happy.
And what was your next step?
Well, uni, work, 6 days a week, 4 hours singing, 4 hours set. I remember New Year night, I was singing 11 hours, then hour of a break and a few hours more. And I only calculated it actually later. I was just doing it. I was not even thinking about it. So yeah, it was quite intense. Work, uni, friendships, first boyfriends, everything. Yes, I had it all. But mostly music.
And then, so how many years were you in the country for?
In Ukraine?
Yeah.
Well, I finished the uni and it was 5 years. And then I guess I worked there for 10, 15 years in Ukraine. Then I started traveling.
This is all singing and...
Yes, all of that,
writing.
yes. Nothing... you know, some people in Britain say, what was your first job? You know, like, what your first job? The first job, you know, the funny one.
Yeah, McDonald's.
So the first job like this, I only got when I got to England, when I was already, let's say, after my 30s.
Yeah.
Far after. So yeah, that was this first funny job, because it's all different here. And if you don't have a connection that you was building, obviously, like I did in my country, in the industry, so many years, no one knows.
When did you leave Ukraine? And where did you go to?
Well, that was a story about China. We're coming to Asian part. 4 years in China. I was recording my second acoustic album, and I was excited. Me and my friend producer Zhenya Stupka, who lives now in LA, was planning a tour on Europe, probably, you know, a few gigs here and there, just to go and spread the goods. And my friend's band invited me to go with them for a 3 months contract in China, because they have a female and male singer, but female singer was extremely pregnant by that point, and they invited me. First I said no, but then after 48 hours and a few more conversations with my friends, I rearranged everything and said, okay, you know, it's going to be crazy, but let's try it. And I agreed. And it made me finish the album for 45 days. And I was also working on production for a few more artists. So basically, let's say 1.5 album for 45 days was produced and mixed. And I was also traveling and gigging because, you know, girls got to pay bills, and so it was all together 3 hours of sleeping at night, and consider yourself lucky. 45 days, and then I cleaned everything, finished everything. There was complete closure, and I went to China ready for new adventures for 3 months.
You just decided, a Ukrainian girl, just...
Little did I know. Yes, well, I was...
In the 20s,
28, 29, something like that.
Just grab your passport and fly to China for the first time.
Yeah, well, not exactly that, grab a passport and run, but there's obviously, you know, visa preparations, rehearsals with the band and everything. So it was prepared considerably in advance, but I was quite ready for it because I needed some changes. I used to work in Kyiv in the music industry for so many years, and I kind of felt like I am hitting the ceiling. I could not get any further because I know people in the industry. I know the most famous artists. I sing backing vocals with them in the studio. We eat cookies and coffee behind the scenes on a voice show because I used to work there as well. And
The Voice?
Yes, The Voice of Ukraine. And music producer of the X Factor calling me like 12 at night and saying, Marina, please, you know, we need some backing vocals tomorrow. Our artists, everything is around it.
So The Voice is in a lot of different westernized sort of countries, if you like.
Sorry?
It's in westernized countries, The Voice, the program that we know in the UK.
Yes,
'Cause
yes.
I think a lot of people think it's just probably in the UK. They wouldn't be aware that it's...
No, it's everywhere. It's a franchise, yes, and X Factor as well. Or they call it slightly blah, blah, blah factor in some other
Yeah.
countries, but yeah. So I mean, I was quite intact, but I didn't see my development as a singing, as an artist myself. Like, if I want to write songs that I like to write, I will not find the feedback from people because they're busy with some other things, listening to funny music and being busy surviving, basically. And they don't have time for educational culture, which I understand. But they might have it, actually. In 50 years, I believe it will be, even in the closest 15 years, it's going to be amazing place to be in the world. But by that point, I might be already busy with something else, busy with being old and cool. I don't know.
So what was the most exciting thing that you were involved with in China?
China by itself is quite exciting because it's very different. I suggest people who want to go to China, as a tourist, yeah, be my guest or be their guest or whatever. But if you are going there as a person who wants to live there and work, long term, short term, you need to have strong nerves, not because something is wrong with China, but it's just because it's very, very different. Logic that is obvious to Western people absolutely doesn't work.
Our logic is different to their logic.
Yeah, well, this is very nice of you and not me,
change.
because we say our logic, because usually people just say logic, and they assume there's only one logic exists. So you need to be quite open, and but
this
it's
is being human. It's
yes,
understanding.
yes, everybody
There's
like
so
our
many
way.
different cultures of human beings.
Our way is the best way, of course. Yes, you're doing it a different way. You're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, that's where we get into trouble, I think.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. So the best part of China was for you. Do you remember a particular situation where you're singing or?
Oh, it's very beautiful places. There's some. Oh my God, mangoes. Summer, south of China, the fruits there, I was eating them like an animal. That was actually slightly embarrassing how I was doing it. And I was doing it with the closed doors to make sure no one see me, but they were so juicy. Chinese people, they are a little bit like kids, especially in the villages and small towns, a couple of millions, 100 millions, quite small for China.
Small village, yeah.
Yes, but the way of thinking, they a bit naive. So it's a good and a bad thing is at the same time. With everything that comes out of it, it's should I say infantile a little bit in decision making or taking responsibilities or avoiding or ignoring the problem sometimes. Just don't look him in the eye, he'll go away kind of attitude.
There's something to do with the different ways of saying, if you ask somebody if they would like to come out on Friday, they have a way of answering that. That means that it's not yes, but it doesn't mean no either.
Yes. So in Chinese language, in Mandarin, the classic ones, there's a few regions there, but basically they don't have a word no in usage. They have bushi, which is not yes.
Not yes.
Yes.
You see, I think I should be using that.
Yes,
far
and
more
it
often.
explains so much.
Yeah.
So I had a contract for 6 months in Guangzhou, in one city, and I thought I'm going to stay there longer. So I finally thought, okay, because usually it was 1 month here, month and a half there. It was very quick. And if you're the only foreigner in the whole big city, so there's not much, Mandarin lessons for foreigners you can find, obviously, because market is not oozing with
not full of Ukrainian speaking.
Yes,
Chinese,
well, I know
Mandarin
that I
speaking,
don't
yeah.
even talk about Ukraine. Just I was ready to go from English, but anyway. So I had opportunity for 2.5 months to have lessons on Mandarin, and it was an amazing experience. I was very lucky with the teacher, and he was explaining, the very basics of speaking. They have this pinyin. Pinyin is when they writing in kind of Latin, how do you call it? Like almost English alphabet.
Yeah.
They're writing the words with the toning, indications and everything. So that was very.
I mean, they're painted letters.
No, not that.
Oh.
That is the whole different level. So the first, just to understand what people are saying, what you living and working in China. That's another first step. So
I don't think I'll be learning any Mandarin or Chinese.
I was surprised. You could be surprised. It's actually very entertaining, especially it's very musical because I think every language is musical. Because in English, sometimes people speak very clean English and you're like, oh yeah, but they have an accent. No, they don't. But they do have different toning, different from yours. And or Northern English people, they speak different toning. Obviously, there's some syllables work slightly differently, but so you know what I mean. So music in every language, but in Chinese it's actually with the rules, with the strict so it's actually very, very much fun to learn, and it helped me to understand so much of why they think this way. The way the grammar works is not that difficult, but the sounds and the way the little slightly change of a tone can mean, simple cheesy example, number 4 or death. S or S.
Oh, they sound the same.
Yes.
Not the sort of things you want to get mixed up with.
Yes, exactly. That's why, just in case, they don't have 4th floors anywhere.
The Chinese
no
menu.
Room,
do you want number 4 or do you?
Doesn't exist.
Don't want to get them too confused.
Yes, it doesn't exist. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not looking for that one. Okay, I've got it. So, do you remember what sort of music you sang when you were in China?
Mostly pop, iconic, or should I say pop iconic in Chinese version of reality songs, because they're slightly different from the whole world top 40. And yes.
Give me an example.
I don't know. Do you remember Lady Gaga?
Yeah.
Okay, there was a song
that was
like considering she's still alive. Yeah, so do you remember the song "I Want the Age of Glory"? Or that was the peak of that song. And I remember in one nightclub in Shanghai, actually, the art director, which is where Shanghai should be quite, knowing pop music. Anyway, he was asking for more new stuff, and I'm sitting there going through internet, American charts, UK charts, world charts, and I'm giving him the best. And I'm like, no. And then I accidentally give him some Lady Gaga, not famous song whatsoever. The song was "Say Hey, Hey Hey," something very cute, but very, very harmless and not even Lady Gaga-ish whatsoever. Very cute song, a little bit like "I like you, you probably like me, hey, hey, I say hey, you say hey too." So the song, and middle tempo, it doesn't sound like a banger that they're expecting in the clubs. And he's like, yeah, that one, that is new, finally. And I was like, but this is like 6 years old and not very he wouldn't listen anymore. So, and that was a moment
Folk
when
music for children.
Yeah, and that was like, I was like, okay, so it's just different reality. I'm constantly forgetting.
They will sit there in the nightclub and be loving it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, they would. And they did. Yes.
And then when you left China, how long were you there? 4 years?
Yeah, I was there for years. 2 years I was traveling, and then 2 other years I settled in Beijing. During all this time I was touring or performing. Once I moved to Beijing and can settle there a little bit for 2 years, I also take part in a few my friends' bands' albums, co-production, and I was also all this for years keep on writing top lines for some DJs that was released all around the world on labels, and was doing the project Kinspin. So writing lots of Kinspin, yes. It was me, Marina, and girl DJ Marina as well. Isn't it confusing and convenient at the same time?
Yeah.
So yeah, we both was traveling and touring in Ukraine a lot. There's very good music. Still proud of some of our tracks. They still make sense to me. Like, yes.
Can you still get hold of these tracks?
Yes, I can. Yes, yeah, I can. I can even perform them, but I don't. Because I'm busy to writing
your
my
own stuff.
synthwave stuff, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you say synthwaves?
Synthwave, yes, synth pop, or some people call some of the songs I think we can call synthwave.
So your music changed?
I think it was quite established already in my head what I am, and by the years, I think I know who I am. I can do so many things, you see, and I can do this, I can do acoustic.
Yeah, because that can be confusing. If you have a lot of
Absolutely,
skills and
yes,
lots of different things, like different hats you can wear, it can be confusing about who you actually are.
Yes, so I think as an artist, I'm feeling quite comfortable with what I am now. And
like a synth queen.
Oh, stop it. Go on. Yes, it's never enough of synthesizers. Yes, there should be more. Planning to get a few more.
And it was the same in China, that was the synthesizer?
Yes, obviously, I was keep on writing music in China as well. Yeah, some of the songs that I was starting writing in China, actually, some bits of them I released in album Art of Underthinking when I was already in England. So some songs can be written in 2 hours. Some songs can be started 5 years ago and finished today for 2 hours when you undid them.
So that was the Art of Underthinking?
No, Art of Underthinking, the whole song was written in 2 hours when I was already in England, but there are a few songs that's some ideas
on
for
the
them.
album?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's all sorts of situations with the songwriting can be happening. Long, fast.
So you left China and came to the UK?
Yes.
Directly?
I had to go to Ukraine for 6 months to sort out a visa. If I would be a nice person, I would say, God bless Home Office. So yeah, it takes time and a lot of hassle, but it was all done, and voila, I'm in London. New Cross Gate, watching a crazy person walk in the streets, shouting something inaudible and waving a hammer.
That could be.
That was my first vision of New Cross Gate, a London life. I was like, nice.
London public, yeah.
Yes, well,
welcome to them.
Someone had a rough life.
Yeah.
Or day or weekend.
And then since then, you've done some more music?
Yes, I did. Yes, frankly, I always do. Yeah, that was Art of Underthinking album. And since then, right now I'm working on another one automatically because there's already, I think, more songs that I need for even 2 albums. But, sometimes when a song comes and it's very, very in the moment for you, you want to do it as fast as possible and do everything and release it and feel relieved.
I don't exactly know. No, I'm generally my I don't work with music so much. I work more with a skeleton, so it's not quite the same thing. I have to take my time with that as well. I can't just rush things through.
Right. So
I need to just get this person's done.
It does work like this for some artists. Yes, for lots of them actually. So a few more singles, and then honestly, I will stop releasing singles, and I will just do just collect them in the album and work on the tunes with the next one. I already, by the way, have ideas for the name of the album, looking how the things are going.
But for the new album?
Yeah.
Okay. So over the last 12 months, what music have you made, and have you made any videos?
Yes, Rain. It's like 8-ish.
Aces.
8, yes,
yeah, okay.
which is not a bit, pretty much about what I do. And what else was Lighter? Slightly experimental. People accusing me to be in Bjorkish and Kate Bushish. And what else? Well, now 19th of May next week is going to be release of another single, Guilty. I didn't want it to release any more singles, but I have to do it. Hesitation is a very cool song.
Okay.
Yeah, and after that I have 2 more singles that I hope to get videos for done. One of them actually almost done, just waiting for one last X factor to it, and then it will be ready.
And you managed to squeeze all of this music writing in around what's actually happened over this last 2 months. If I can just bring you back briefly to last year.
Right.
You were obviously living in the country, and you heard the news about Putin and that situation. Do you remember where you were?
Yeah. Felt quite isolated and lost. And it seemed like in the beginning of this coronavirus pandemic craziness, it was as well like, it seems that you're actually watching a movie, apocalyptic movie, but it's not real, and you will wake up and think, oh, that was a weird dream.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, it's really, really strange feeling. And it takes you a lot of time to actually, no, it doesn't seem like I'm waking up. It is actually happening.
Did it take you hours, minutes, or days to realize that the Ukraine was being an attempted invasion?
Well, in terms of taking information to consideration, I think I'm quick enough, but if you ask me when I took it and when I accepted it, I don't know if it's a right word even to use in this sentence. I think there was a moment when, almost a year after Ukrainian war, I also do production for some artists, some of them in Ukraine. It's also part of a job that, a person like me can do. And I am co-writing or helping or rewriting or doing, sometimes artists come with a few lines and this is what I want a song about. I'm like, okay, I understand. So I do all analysis of the artist and the market and everything. And I come up with suggestion of a song. So that was a song about war. And many people was asking, why don't you write a song about war yourself? Tell them what's happening. And I couldn't explain them why I don't want to do that. But for this artist, I think because it was through somebody else, it was a bit easier, and I just started working on her song, and I wrote most musical parts, a little bit of chorus, but when I needed to write all the lyrics together, it was very hard. I couldn't force myself. I think it took me a week to, okay, come on, go to the studio, this needs to be done. And I'm a very good girl. I know if something needs to be done, I go and do it. And waiting for all my deadlines, and then I start coming. So once I wrote down the whole lyrics, and they are so personal and so alive and so about that, but not from the heroic perspective, from very human perspective, and because the singer is a girl and she's quite feminine, so it should be a song from a girl's perspective. So the whole song, I wrote the lyrics, I recorded the demo vocals, and it all was out, and then I closed the project. I sat like this and cried for hours and hours and hours. First time my cry about the war. In the beginning there was panicking cry. There was a little bit, but that was a proper, and it took, I don't know, slightly less than a year, I would say.
So actually you could...
Yes. So I consider this for me as, like you say, comprehension of what actually going on, because the music is like one or tentacles of mine to communicate
and communicate
yes
with the world,
to receive and give information. So the proper receiving or giving information, it's writing a song and releasing it and letting it go. And I think that was the moment, but it took a long time. Yes, it did.
Yeah, so I joined you on a visit to the Ukraine during the war. The first one was in February this year. Mm-hmm. And from the visit in the Ukraine, I made a decision that actually I'd like to offer some support.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and from that you were able to help me to sort of make that happen. Mm. And we went out there again on the date of, it was in March, which was quite interesting. It's not very easy to get in there, is it?
No, not these days. Used to be.
Yeah, just jump on an EasyJet flight and fly straight into...
Yes, you wake up 7 in the morning, and by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you're already having tea in Mum's kitchen. Mm-hmm. Yes, with her.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
How did you feel to think that you could go there and offer some extra support? I mean, obviously you're doing business with the Ukrainian people during the war, but offering some support in the way of, and you were there for me as a translator. Yeah,
obviously it felt good. It felt like absolutely the right thing to do. And how well it was received?
Well, it appeared to be very, very well received.
Yes.
What did you find? How would you?
Yes, some people were still texting me after the weeks after with thanks and saying hi to you and everything.
Yeah. So the decision was made, obviously, to do this again.
Yes.
And so we're going back out there in
July.
It seems like a really good idea. So the middle of July, we're going out there. We've got some contacts of people who can make it happen a lot larger. I'm looking for chiropractors who are willing to come out there with me this time.
Yes, expanded team.
Yeah, there's far too. I was very stretched last time I was there, working with the Ukrainian military. I was amazed that they were turning up in vans. They were leaving the front where they were fighting, getting showered, putting some clean clothes on, jumping in vans with the clean military clothes and their guns.
Yes.
And so I've never, in a chiropractic clinic, I've never dealt with Ukrainians before. And I've certainly never dealt with any human being that's turned up with guns. And they have to unload all of their pistols. It was a bit like Pirates of the Caribbean, with one of the guys there taking out a gun out of the back of his belt, and then one out of his sock. It was we had another chap turn up who was carrying a very large oblong rifle bag, which looked like it was carrying at least 2 rifles. And
He's obviously was a very busy guy, was he?
Yeah, and asking not to have their photographs or videos taken as well, which was also told me a lot about who they were and what they were doing. So it was a very interesting thing to be involved with, and it to be honest with you, it filled my spirits to be able to offer my skills and the profession of chiropractic to people who were struggling on the front line, knowing the people were coming in with all sorts of problems, the shoulders, elbows, lower back problems always. And if I wasn't there helping them, then that would be something that would just be ignored. And the sort of things that if the average person in this country was suffering from backache and pain down the back of the legs, they were getting sciatic problems, that would be all the excuse they need not to go into work. And these people were getting back on the front line, and it was just taken for granted that they were working. It's not like a job. They're defending their country from an aggressor.
Did you notice that none of them have complaints? And even when part of your job was to what are your complaints about your health, and what's so you as a doctor demanding them, you need to know what are their complaints, and they was doing everything to just even do not complain, even in this setup, in this context. How funny it was. I noticed it.
I'm not used to that. Usually when I ask people who come to see me, what are the problems, then, it's time to get the pen out, make sure it's full of ink, and get that information down in the consultation. But there it was...
all good. Fine.
Do you remember that gentleman who came in, and we would obviously he wasn't speaking English, but he was speaking Ukrainian, and it was being translated, and I had to say to a translator, I need to know what's going on, because on the back of the consultation sheet it was empty of information. And so he was asked the question, he went, "No, I can't think of anything." I said, "Well, they must have had a road traffic accident. You look like you're about 56 years old." I checked the paperwork, and he was. And then we were asking a few more questions. Eventually he says, "Well, no, I did have some type of incident. I rolled a car at 140 kilometers an hour. And but it was, I didn't go to hospital, and I was able to walk away from that incident with bruises and cuts. So I didn't think about putting it down on your consultation sheet." And so I laughed and I said, "Well, is there anything else that you perhaps need to tell me? Any other accidents at all?"
And they started guessing.
Yeah.
Is there any wounds by guns or
so
anything?
The next minute, he's pulled his pants down, and he's I've been shot in the leg twice.
It's the last thing he would like to complain about.
Oh, it's like it was another world.
In some places, people complaining about weather,
Yeah. Well, it was just that it's a tough life, and I've certainly after my visits to the Ukraine, I've had a different viewpoint.
Did it
on the
change?
life that we're leading today, and I'm seeing it through different eyes completely about how we deal with things as a human being. So I want to wrap this up, if it's okay with you. I think I've really enjoyed speaking to you. Great to have some of those, learn something about your past as well.
Same here.
And good luck with your music in the future. And thank you, Marina Lecomber, for coming along.
Thank you, Alun.
And for anyone listening, thank you very much. I've fully enjoyed doing this today. This is the first one, and we've got another one set up in 2 weeks' time. So please subscribe and pass on to your friends. That would be great as well, if you think they might be interested in what's going on in certain parts of the world right now. Thank you. God bless. Peace.